All right, well, Florida, 6-point favorite. Mississippi State. Oh, boy.
That whole sentence is like, Florida, eyes go big. 6-point favorite, eyes go bigger. Mississippi State, eyes get even bigger.
Golly. The over-under I have for this one is 45 Mississippi State rushing yards. Yep, that's it. That's what the Bulldogs are averaging in 2 games against FBS competition. 1.67 yards per carry. Woof. Pun intended. Peyton Thorne has more rushing yards than Mississippi State leading rusher Kevon Lee. Peyton Thorne's played in 2 games. Peyton Thorne's also Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne
who was notably Peyton Thorne. Is this
just saying. Florida's run defense has also been basura, averaging 227 yards allowed against FBS competition. So this is a something has to give matchup, but not in a good way at all. For the sake of my entertainment value and your entertainment value and everybody listening to this, I hope this doesn't happen. But I'm bracing for this possibility. What if this is last year's Mississippi State-Arkansas game all over again? It's possible, Will. It is possible. I don't think it will be because I think Lebby is too good of an offensive mind, and I got to imagine he's going to be able to take advantage of this Florida defense, whatever you want to call it, Florida defense, air quotes, which is what, like, that over-under is at 58.5, right? But I'm terrified because the noon slate is about as thin as it gets. Again, no bad Saturdays, but the noon slate doesn't have a whole lot of options for our multi-viewing experience. Dabo Sweeney, ironically enough, who spoke out about how great YouTube TV is with the multi-view, he's part of that noon slate. Again, aforementioned 3-touchdown favorite against NC State. But I don't know, like, am I going to have to flip on Kansas, West Virginia? Maybe both those teams have multiple losses. I don't want to do that. I'm going to be watching this game, and I'm just envisioning this scenario in which I watch the entirety of this football game, and I look back on those 3.5 hours, and I say to myself, I am saving those receipts for when I hopefully join Toby Keith in the pearly gates, as we mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And maybe in heaven, I can get some sort of like charity tax write-off for watching this game so that you all don't have to, and so that I can come on here on Sunday and actually provide some thoughts and analysis, because I think even Florida fans, you're going to be watching this game with paper bags over your heads. I'm just saying, it's true. Will, these teams are a combined 1-13 in their last 14 games against FBS competition, and that lone win was last year when Mississippi State took care of mighty Southern Miss, a game in which it led by a touchdown in the middle of the fourth quarter. If these teams go a combined 1-15 in SEC play, with this game being the lone win, it will not surprise me. It will not. This game is so bad that it feels disrespectful to Dan Mullen to call it the Dan Mullen Bowl. It just does. Okay? Like, this is our only hope. Our only hope is that DJ Lagway, maybe some Kevin Coleman type stuff, splash plays that he gets in the passing game for Mississippi State. That's the only thing that can save our entertainment for this one. I am picking Florida to win by a touchdown, 21-14. If you don't have to watch this game, I don't recommend staying away from football. Watch as much football as possible. Maybe find a different option or watch a replay of a past game if that's what you got to do in the noon slate by any means necessary. Woof.
I think there are 2 very different kinds of bad teams across sports, right? We've talked at times when I covered the Orlando Magic, they were not a fun bad team. Both of these are fun bad teams. So I think yes, and I'll tell you why. This is a good example of a game that when I was younger, I would not have watched because I didn't have social media. This game on Twitter is going to be one of the funniest things in the world because these teams have found ways to do things wrong that I could never anticipate could even be done wrong, right? So, like, the guy, like, I saw a tweet during the last 40 games, it was like, shook this man so hard he turned into a werewolf, and this guy's, like, running on the ground on all fours. Like, they're, like there's the, the way that Florida was when they had fired their DC, Grantham, and they played Stanford and they gave up all those points. I think both of these teams are that way, wherein, Mississippi State has all this coaching turnover. They're not really sure who they are. Florida should have more coaching turnover, but they don't yet, and so everyone's kind of checked out. So, yeah, I think this game is going to be so sloppy, and the difference is, like, guys falling down, Like, I think in the Arkansas Mississippi State game, we notably didn't have many guys falling down. It was actually kind of a gap sound game. That's why the score was so low. The offenses were failing for sure. But when a guy falls down, you score a touchdown. I will give you over under 4 guys falling down in this game.
Well, I think Florida's best defensive moment of the year was the clip that SEC Network tweeted out where the A&M running back, I think it was Emmitt Smith Jr., actually, who saw Desmond Watson, our thick king, in the hole and then just chose to go the other way. I think that's Florida's best defensive moment of this season. And I'm not going to include anything that happened in week 2. I'm talking about like against a real team.
Yep.
I would be so upset to lose this game as a fan because of that reality. That reality of, oh my God, we're not going to get one this year, are we? Is staring both of these teams in the face. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I mean SEC play. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about whether or not Mississippi State's going to get that one late in the year against UMass. TBD on that. We don't discount Ryan Bamford, but I do.
You can't beat Florida. You certainly can't beat UMass. They got an identity up there.
Do they though? Look, it'll be potentially a game in which Florida's offense should be able to find some success. If you're just going with the most basic Billy Napier stripped down version of whatever the heck this has been in 2+ I guess 3 seasons at Florida, you say, all right, you should be able to establish somewhat of a rushing presence. I would think if there is not any running lanes to be had for the Florida offense against this Mississippi State defense, which has just struggled so mightily, just shut down the shot. Just shut it down. Just simulate the rest of the season. We already know what's waiting for you in the latter half of the season, even if it's not as difficult as we thought because Florida State is still technically on there. I mean, just shut it down. Just shut it down because there's no way you could be the team that just watched Toledo go into that building and take it over and then come there a week later and then lose. I would be an all-time bad loss for Florida. It really would.
I'm imagining I wish we could have a viewing party of this game with Heupel and Venables because Levy is like the other Oklahoma guy, and it's like, well, I think we've got 1 and 2 pretty well figured out, whoever they may be. Because say what you will about each of these guys, right? But I mean, Mississippi State right now is a team that has a guy with more punt return yards than rushing yards. Like their high punt return yards is higher than their high rushing yards. This is a team that makes no sense. I don't know.
Guys, fair catch, Will. Guys,
like,
fair catch
all the time. Saying. Like, do you know how hard it is to have your leading rusher have 88 yards at this point?
It's hard.
When you get smacked by Toledo, you should be running the ball. It's the thing. It's like you should be running the ball against Toledo, and you got to throw it. So, yeah, point being, I think that's just all it is. I will be so locked into this game. I will be tweeting constantly. I don't really care about Mississippi State in terms of, like, I don't take pleasure in their pain. That's true about one of these teams. So I think that at the end of the day, like, this is going to be, like, it's one of those things where, like, it almost this is the worst. How about this? This is the worst game ever that determines neither coach's future. Because Billy, I think the hay is in the barn.
Yeah.
And Levy, even if he loses this game, it's like, dog, you just lost to Toledo. They're not firing you off of a Florida loss.
Yeah, it's not a can't lose game. It's a please don't lose game.
Please don't embarrass us,
please,
dog.
just don't. We don't want to be a laughing stock. The noon slate is so thin. Again, people are just going to make fun of us on the internet.
Yep.
That's happening very much.